According to state investigators, the nurse injected two multi-care Good Samaritan patients with painkillers last December. Both of those patients later returned to the hospital with symptoms of hepatitis C, a blood-borne liver infection. Tests determined the patients got Hep C from the same source, and it was later determined they were both treated by the same nurse who had a history of hepatitis C and admitted to stealing pain medications for personal use. But tests have not identified her as the definitive source.
Yeah, he's angry, he's in shock. He's very emotional about it.
Amanda Searle's client is one of the 2,600 patients treated by the nurse who received this letter with an ominous opening line. We are contacting you to share some very concerning information. The Puyallup man in his 50s, now with Hep C, is suing the hospital for negligence.
Whether it was this nurse or some other practice in the emergency department, something's going on at Good Samaritan, and my clients want answers.
Last Friday, Puyallup police arrested that nurse at the Canadian border. She was on her way to catch a pre-planned vacation flight to Guam with her boyfriend. She's not been charged and was released from jail last Friday, but a prosecutor's spokesperson says she is not off the hook. The investigation just is not complete. She did surrender her passport. Now, the nurse's attorney late today, when he found out about these latest developments, told us that his client has never been told she was testing positive for Hep C, and he says she told the state investigators that. So he's not really sure what happened there. He is frustrated. He says his client is just devastated about being unfairly connected to all of this. So far, about 900 of the 2,600 patients have come in to be tested. We're told that a number have tested positive for hepatitis C. It is not going to be clear for several weeks, though, to find out if those are actually the same strain or if those can be connected to this nurse at all. Live in Puyallup, Drew Mickelson, King 5 News.